Also, quite close left. Start up.
Welcome everybody. So we haven't done this in a while, back to ND podcast, but today is not a regular ND podcast. Today is coding adventures, and I have my friend here, Sahil. Say hi, Sahil.
Yo, what's good?
Everybody can see
Shout
you
out to
now.
the camera.
So
Yeah.
he is going to be one of my program buddies along with Dominic. Dominic's not here today, but this is a coding adventure episode as opposed to our regular ND podcast. Now he's a JavaScript expert. I'm C sharp, and he's also C sharp expert. But I don't know that much with JavaScript, so he really wanted to do this. So I said, okay, here you go, it's an episode for you. So I'm going to turn off my camera and my microphone, and I'll be like, coming in sometimes. So I'm going to show you Sahil, and Sahil's going to walk you through JavaScript and all that fun stuff. So here you go, Sahil.
So, like, my camera's on, right?
Yep, everything's working.
Alright, and is the screen sharing now?
Yeah, in a minute. Yep, alright, you're all good. Alright.
Okay. So, first, what do I want to talk about JavaScript? So, let's actually search up some history about JavaScript before we get into anything too complex. Let's read up. What? Oh, let me open up Google. Okay. JavaScript. I'm just gonna open a wiki page because why not? JavaScript is a high-level, dynamic, untyped, and interpreted programming language. It has been standardized in ECMAScript language specification. Alongside HTML and CSS, JavaScript is one of the three core technologies of World Wide Web content production. The majority of websites employ it, and all modern web browsers support it without the need for plugins. So basically what that means is JavaScript is a widely used scripting language that is used in like a lot of web pages. Like, for example, you have like a game or something you program, you probably going to use JavaScript or some derivative or form of JavaScript in it. Web pages are made in a language called HTML. So usually anything you see, Wikipedia or any page you open up, I don't know, let's search up CNN.com, just an example. How about YouTube, something like that, something more common. The YouTube, this is also, everything here is in HTML, right? So it's all written in HTML. You can find the HTML of something. Well, I'm on Microsoft Edge, probably going to be using Internet Explorer Chrome, but on Edge, for me, I just right-click, inspect element. What this does, it's going to show you the HTML behind the scenes or whatever. And these are basically a bunch of tags for HTML, and HTML can reference JavaScript or like other scripts that use in software, in like web applications. A web application being like something you can access through a browser such as Microsoft Edge, Internet Explorer, or Google Chrome. So JavaScript is different from a programming language. It's called, they call it an interpreted programming language here. What that actually means, it's a scripting language. As you can tell from the name JavaScript, scripting languages are languages that you use for browsers. They're not like C Sharp JavaScript. Sorry, no, C Sharp Java C++. That's powerful programming language. JavaScript is the difference between it is those programs run locally on your computer, and they're compiled by your computer. Like, the binary is handled by your computer, but the code for web applications is handled by the browser that you're using. That's why, for example, a lot of websites look different depending on what browser you're using. Like, you go on Internet Explorer and Chrome, some stuff might look different. Especially on Edge, a lot of stuff is formatted differently. So yeah. So if you guys don't know programming, then I guess there are tutorials and stuff you could find online. Let me ask Nick something. Nick, you there?
Yep.
Hello?
Yep.
All right. So should I start teaching them about programming?
You can do basics of JavaScript, all your libraries that you want to talk about, whatever you feel like.
Okay. So let's first how about let's talk about libraries that you can use. Libraries, what a JavaScript library are they're these files that you could download from the internet and use in your programs. They're meant to make your programs more interactive and do more things. For example, there's this one library called p5.js. I really recommend it. There's this one YouTuber like who endorses this program called The Coding Train. I watch him a lot. He's makes a lot of interesting videos of like making applications with this. So I watch that a lot. He is one of the founding members of the Processing Foundation, and what the Processing Foundation did is they made a bunch of different languages. Like processing is like a Java based language. P5.js is a JavaScript. Processing.py and processing for Android for for Android development. So yeah, P5. Let's read this first. Hello, P5.js is a JavaScript library that starts with the original goal of processing, a Java-based language, to make coding accessible for artists, designers, educators, and beginners, and reinterprets this for today's web. Excuse me. Using the original metaphor of a software sketchbook, P5.js has a full set of drawing functionality. However, you're not limited to your drawing canvas. You can think of your whole browser page as your sketch. For this, P5.js has add-on libraries that make it easy to interact with other HTML5 objects. HTML, as I said before, hypertext markup language, is what is used to make up, like those tags we saw earlier when we inspected element, they're used to make up web pages, including text, input, video, webcam, and sound. P5.js is a new interpretation, not an emulation or port, and it is in active development. An official editing environment is coming soon, as well as many more features. So, yeah. So, like a lot of things, mainly the thing that P5.js does is it makes it easy to work with HTML elements, and like it makes your page very interactable, and it's also easy for like making video games and stuff, drawing graphics on screen.
All right, and just a quick thing. I will be right back, so you keep talking. I just need to get my charger.
Okay, as Nick is away, I'm going to show you an example of P5.js. We have one more library to talk about after this. So let's see. There's oh, ignore that. So there's one application that you could download called a P5.js. It's called P5. You can get it from the P5.js website. If you go to download, you can go to give me a second. There's like an application you can get called P5. You can download it from here on the website somewhere. Let's just find that very quick before Nick comes back.
Just so you know, I'm back, so just keep talking.
Let's find this. Oh, I don't think it's supported anymore. So this P5 application I have now, it's not supported anymore, but there's a new application that's out there. I'll talk about it later. I don't use it, but I probably should switch to it, and I'll talk about that.
So, like, is there a whole P5.js, like, application?
Yes, this is the application that I downloaded. It's not supported anymore. Like, it still works, but, like, it's not, like...
So, show us how to use it. Like, what do you do with it?
Okay, so P5. It's outdated, but I'll just show what it's like. There's another application similar to it. This is the P5 application. I opened it up. When you open it up, it's just gonna like open up this thing, right? You're gonna see this thing. If you don't know how to program, then it's gonna look very weird to you. Nick, should we on this episode? Should I like talk about a bit like about?
If you want to just talk about like the basics of it.
Okay, so let's first delve into JavaScript itself before we like actually use a library. So for now, let's get rid of this for now. Okay. So in JavaScript, and any programming language, you're usually going to have a way to. I'm going to run through this very quickly for those who don't know how to program. First, if you want to store information in something, for example, a variable, you think of algebra or like anything you do in math. Usually, there's going to be variables that you store information in, or sometimes usually in math, you're going to be trying to find the value of a variable. Here, you can just store values in variables. So, for example, let's say I want to call a variable x. It's just a value, right? Let's say you want to say var x equal var means variable. So if you want a declaration for a variable, you'd say var space, and then you'd say the variable name, and then let's say you want to equal to 10, right? If you want to end a line's like a command. You want to end a line, put a semicolon. Var x equals 10. Okay, so how about we do this? Var x equals 10, And for JavaScript, there are many ways to like show some like alerts. How do I explain it? Let's do an alert first. An alert's kind of like a pop-up you get on a website. So you just type in alert, okay, and then here's what you do here. There's something like you type in open parenthesis and a close parenthesis. Basically, alert is a function that is built in. What a function is a function takes in a few values or parameters, as I'll show you now. Alert happens to take in one parameter, from what I believe. So what an alert, it's going to make a pop-up, and whatever text you want in the pop-up, you'll put it in there. So let's say you want to alert the value of x, right? So it's a 10, put an x, okay, get out of that, and then put a semicolon as to be the end of the command. Okay, and then, I didn't mean to save that. You go here, press play. So that all opened up and alerted 10. Okay, it's a little window that P5 opened up for me. Okay, now how about we do this?
So wait a minute. So that, like, when you ran that, it popped up like a local host window, correct?
Yes, it's a local host window, but you can
So
also
that local host window is basically, like its own web page, kind of like a
yes,
local web page.
it's not running locally, but it's running on a local browser, local host.
So you need like HTML to run in the background of JavaScript is what?
Oh, let me explain that. P5 has built. The reason why I like P5 is because it does a lot for you. So right now it doesn't show the HTML files. How about we save this first? Ooh, no, I didn't mean to put an S there. Okay, okay, I have a lot more applications that's on a separate flash drive. So let's call this JavaScript test. How about JavaScript tutorial? Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna open up a thing. This create a folder called JavaScript tutorial. We're in a file called sketch.js, meaning sketch. It's a JavaScript. JS means JavaScript file. Open up index. Index is the HTML file. Usually this is what HTML files are named in a folder. So we're in index.html. This is going to be very complicated because there's a lot of weird symbols you see. But these are basically called HTML tags. This HTML is a completely separate thing. I'm not going to go into it now. All you need to know is that it's like I said, it makes up like a web page. Right here you see the term script, right? These are script tags. So this is basically going to different P5.js libraries I talked about. Libraries having it has different methods of you like using things. Like for example, P5 is very heavily oriented on graphics, right? So excuse me. So scripts, they open up script files that contain JavaScript, and these HTML files execute that. So yeah. So P5 or whatever application is being standardized now, we should make this for you. But watch some HTML tutorial. Maybe I'll delve into it later. In the future, probably not now, but let's focus on JavaScript a little more because HTML is not really a programming language. It's more like it's a web page language, creates web pages. So var x equals 10. How about we do this? Var y equals. Now we're going to reference the x that we created before, x plus, let's say 1, right? Plus 1, you do plus sign and 1, easy. And you end that command with a semicolon. How about instead of alerting x, you want to alert y? Okay, and then we run that. It's going to alert 11. Now what you can do is you can also manipulate the variable like within the parameter, like within the function, alert function. So you want to do y plus 1, right? It should print out 12. Cool. Okay, so I'm jumping ahead pretty quickly, but how about we do this? I got rid of everything. So how about we do this? Let's create var x again. Let's say var x equals 10 again, right? What I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a function. Function, I'll explain in a second. This is like alert is like a function that's built in. So I need to name the function. Function, let's call it add. Okay. So what functions do is here is like the parentheses, right? In parentheses you put in parameters. So let's say you want two parameters to take in an A and a B. Well, I'll show you why we need that later. You see something? Okay, we're good. Okay, so A and B. So how do we do this? it's basically for a function. Functions can do many things. Can do many things. They can either what do you call it? They can. I'm sorry. Blah, blah. Functions, they can either like carry out different other functions or different tasks that you want them to do, or they can also return a value, which I'll explain what that does. So I'm gonna type this line of code: return a plus b. Okay. Yeah. So what this does is a return basically means, let's say you set x equal to add, right? It would return whatever value you put in for a and b. So since this is taking in two parameters, a and b, separated by a comma, let's say you want to put in two values, right? So let's say 1 and 2, right? And then you save that and you run that. It should say, there's an error. Hold up. Return. Okay, let's. Sometimes you have to put a parenthesis around your thing. How about we do this? Ugh. I'm gonna create a new variable, right? Let's call this variable sum. Okay. Our sum equals a plus b. Well, now let's return the sum. Oh, wait. Oh, okay. I see. I see what's happening. I've never actually like it's working, but it's not ever displaying it. So, so you set the variable. You set the value for x, right? And then now what you want to do is you want to actually alert it, right? So I'm gonna alert the value of x now. See, it says 3. So, one thing that you should know is, let's say you have you see function right here, right? Before we made a variable declaration that was var y equals x plus 1. The thing was, you always have to make your variables, like if you're gonna use a variable, you have to like declare the variable, or like say var and then the name of the variable. You have to say it before, like if you want to use it, you have to say it before the time you want to use it. But for functions, these are kind of like universal. You can put them wherever you want, and they'll still work. You can put them at the end of your code, but you could any variables or anything, you could still access that function. Which is pretty cool. But for variables, no, you can't do that. Think of this as, think of like any code usually as like a bot reading through each character of each line. It's gonna read first. It's gonna look for the keyword function right on the beginning of a line. It says sees function. It's gonna look at the function. It's gonna identify this function. Okay, this is like, now it's a function, right? This function's created. So then next it's going to and then it's going to start from line 1, and then it's going to read through all this stuff, and it's going to carry out everything here in sequential order. So let's see you want to alert y, right? So we know x is 3, so y 3 plus 1 should be 4. Okay, cool. Functions can also do something else. So let's say you want to get rid of that, right? Functions, how we do this? It's gonna take. Let's call this speak. Okay, you can name them whatever you want. It's just easier. It's easier to name it what you want it to do, right? Because it's a function. You want to carry out that function, so you want to name it what you want to do. So let's say speak. You want to say phrase, right? You want to speak a phrase. So what this function is going to do is going to alert the phrase, and I'll explain how you can say what the phrase you want is. So let's say before that you want. It's usually I keep my functions at the. You can do whatever you want. How about we keep the function at the front? I don't know why I'm doing this. Function speak is going to take in a phrase, and it's going to alert that phrase. See, this phrase references the parameter we passed in here. So let's say you want to say speak, right? I sometimes usually I like kind of like set up everything up, and then there I go back into parentheses and type something in. Well, that's just habituary of habit that I do. Speak. And then the phrase is going to take in one parameter because there's only one parameter. Nothing separated by commas here. So basically, if you want to do like a string of or like multiple characters or numbers, character, anything on the keyboard, one's a character, A's a character, uppercase L's a character, that's a character, like quotations are a character. If you want to like have a string or like a bunch of like characters or like a phrase, let's say I want to say hello, right? You can't just say hello because basically since you're saying hello, it's gonna be looking for a variable called hello. but there is no variable we declared called hello. I mean, now there is, but there has to be a variable called hello. So we don't want to be looking for a variable. We want it to we want to pass in that string of characters. So strings are what's used to define, or is the name for a string of characters. So let's say we want to say hello, right? The hello. Okay, we speak hello. We're calling that function speak, and then we're saying hello. On that, I should say hello. Right there, it said hello. Okay, cool. Now that you understand the basics of this, Nick, should I go into libraries?
Yeah, and then I think after libraries, if you don't have anything else really to cover, we'll wrap it up.
I have another oh yeah, I have like 2 libraries to do.
Yeah, that's fine. Take your
Okay,
time.
cool. Okay, before in the beginning it said something had 2 things, right? Function set up. The reason why this function's red is because this is it's a commonly used function, it's an important function. A lot of them in P5 will be a P5 application will be recognized function draw. These are the 2 things it had, right? So in setup, basically setup is called the beginning of when you first run the HTML page. So uh, usually before setup you can declare your variables, and then in setup you see what the variables are equal to. So let's see when this is like a more advanced way of doing it. So var x in setup when HTML pages run, you could say x equals 10. It's just like a more organized way of doing it. I mean, you can also just do this. I'm gonna undo that. I just Control Z is the shortcut, or you can also just do undo. The Control Z shortcut, as you can see right here. Yeah, var x. You can also do that like we did before, but I like the other way better. Yeah. So function setup. How about we already understand variables, so let's delve into what P5 has to offer. Function set up. 1 second. I'll be back in a second.
All right. So anyway, while Sahil is
Oh yeah,
going,
I'm back. I had to do something very
oh,
quickly.
okay,
I'm
never
good.
mind.
I'm
I'll
good. I'm
talk
good.
to you guys later.
So, I don't have much time left on this, so like, let's do it pretty quickly. So,
Yeah, whatever you
P5.
got, it's okay.
Okay. So, P5 has multiple things you can do. For example, let's say you want to create a canvas. Canvas is where you can create graphics. It has a built-in function called create canvas. Yeah, God, capital C. Usually, if you want to have multiple words in a variable, you like separate it with a capital letter, right? Create canvas, and it's going to take in 2 parameters: width and height. I'm talking fast. Sorry. Let's say you want to be. This takes in pixels. Let's say you want to be 500 pixels by 500 pixels. It's going to be. It's going to create. It's working. 1 second. Let me just technical difficulties. Let me just see if this is working. Sometimes the application itself doesn't work. You can physically open the HTML file.
Okay, so while Sahil figures all that out, let me tell you what's gonna be happening now with ND Podcast. So Dominic is still gonna be here. I'm sorry for this crappy camera. I'm using, not my best laptop. But so Dominic will still be doing this podcast with us, and he's going to be definitely in the regular podcast. And so will Sahil. Sahil will also be sometimes joining us in the regular podcast, but he will definitely be in Coding Adventures. He's going to be, my new partner also with Coding Adventures. And we'll be doing this, when Dominic's not around. But when Dominic is around, we will do our regular podcast. And in our next regular podcast, we're going to be talking about some new communication tools. For example, as Sahil knows, this new tool, and Dominic, that I've been using Slack, right, Sahil? You know about that.
Yep.
So we'll be going into that, looking at some new communication tools, and also seeing new products that Microsoft and Apple have been releasing, and where they're going with their operating systems. That's going to be, just a little update video, since we haven't been doing these podcasts in a while. So we'll just have a new update video in our regular podcast. So I'm going to switch this back to Sahil.
Yeah. Give me a second. So what I'm doing now is I'm actually deleting the folder. This should not usually happen. What is happening? That's okay. You know what? I'll just work with what we got. My screen's still sharing, right?
Yeah, it's
Nick?
still sharing.
Okay. So that old project didn't work, so I just went ahead and created a new project. See if this works. I don't know what happened. I probably did something. Just work on it like this. We have to save this one. I'm not really gonna. Wait a second. Oh, it is working. I know what's happening. I know what's happening. Um. Oh, I don't know why I closed it. Very unprofessional. See. Okay, I see the issue. We just let P5 usually takes like a minute to like load up. So while that loads up, Nick, you have to say anything?
Not really.
Nick, no,
No.
fairly quick. Okay, let's open this up.
I mean,
No,
anything about libraries, what libraries do, just explain what libraries do. I mean, I wasn't really paying attention.
yeah. Wow, thanks, Nick. Big sport.
Welcome.
Oh, haha. Okay, so what you do is I open up the index.html file because we call it for in order to actually see a canvas, like there's some stuff that like this is HTML, right? HTML. This is like this. It says style right here. Right? This is gonna style the canvas. So I'm gonna quickly open up another file where it actually like has like good styling for it, like styling that I'm happy with. Just gonna copy this whole file. You can just copy right here, canvas, in between style tags, canvas, and then whatever it says here. Because this specifies the border, so you can actually see the border, right? Let's call this JavaScript tutorial, as we called it before. This is a title tag. Like basically, tags control a lot of control elements in the HTML page, in the web page itself. So let's how about instead of alerting, we create canvas again with a 500. I usually stick to 500, 500. Just the developer, what I stick to, and there we go. Worked. Create this canvas, right? So you can change the width and the height. Width is the first parameter. Height is the second parameter. Height. See, that's like that, right? It's like it's not as high. Like the height's not as tall. Oh, dear. I'm just looking at it again. See now 400 pixels here, 500 pixels here, and this is very due to change. You know, you're on a smaller screen. Like you're on a smaller screen, it's gonna be the same size though. So there's some stuff where you could do if you want to scale it to the screen size, because you know some screens are smaller than others. So if you want to scale like the game to the screen size, that's more complex, but that is also possible. So okay, first let's do some basic stuff. I'm gonna show you how to make basic shapes and that type of stuff. So function draw. What draw does is draw is called every frame. In setup or anywhere you can change the frame rate for frame rate being how many times the draw will be called per second. Let's say I like 40. Usually gaming is like 30, like 60, I guess, right? But 40 is just something. It's like an easy number for me to stick to. So I'm gonna stick to 40. So it means draw is gonna be called 40 times a second. So it's a lot. So this is going to get annoying, but I will show you what it's gonna look like. So how about we do this? Create a variable called x, right? Set it to equal to 0. And then every frame, I'm going to increase x by 1. So you can do this. X equals x plus 1. Basically, this means it's going to set x to the new value. It's going to set this x, right, to its same x, right? The same value plus 1 is going to increase that by 1. A shortcut for this is you can also say plus equals 1. Let's say you want to subtract from, you can say minus equals 1, or divide, you can say divide equals 1, or times equals 1. This is only if you're going to use the same value and you're going to multiply, add, subtract, multiply, or divide to it. Nothing else. X plus equals 1. And then we're going to alert X. So reframe, it should keep on alert. Why to do this? Now I'm in an infinite loop. Nick, any ideas? Nick?
What happened? What happened?
I put myself into an infinite loop. Should I end the task?
I mean, ending the P5 test is gonna end your whole program and like all your code.
Well,
I don't know. Try it. Who cares?
no, I saved it. I saved it before.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Always save your work, because if you're stupid and put yourself into an infinite loop like me, and don't open it in Microsoft Edge, because Edge gives you an option to like stop it from prevents it from creating additional
So did you talked
stuff.
about Matter.js, your famous
Oh,
library?
Matter. Okay, how about that? While that's
Yeah.
opening, I'll talk about
So
Matter. So
well,
P5 it deals with
actually,
shapes and stuff.
so P5 is kind of like a IDE, I would say, right?
Oh
Like
yeah, it's
a
like kind of like an idea. Yeah.
like a development environment for it, basically. So that you can just use to practice your JavaScript, and also,
And it's mainly for like graphics,
yeah,
interacting with HTML elements and like drawing like
yeah,
circles,
and that's
rectangles and
really
stuff.
when if you are using JavaScript, you're mainly going to be interacting with HTML. So it's just a good way to practice practice your JavaScript. So I will leave that download link if you would like to download it inside of the description of this video. And whilst he closes everything up, we're going to go into matter.js, which is one of the libraries. She is gonna show you guys that library, how to use it, and then we'll wrap it up for today. So, Sahil.
Real quick, let me just finish this up on P5. So it's gonna get you into an infinite loop, which you don't really want to do, because then unless you have a browser that lets you stop prompts like alerts from happening, then yeah, it's gonna be hard to get out of that. So how about we do this? I'm gonna have two variables. Var x set it to 0, var y set that to 0. Okay, so let's say we want to draw a rectangle, right? Rect is the function for rectangle. We're gonna draw at x and at y. So we're gonna set a pixel width. So let's say 100, 100, right? And then it's gonna say equals, it increases by 1, x plus equals 1, y plus equals 1. Now this is going to draw a rectangle like that. I'll explain why this is happening. It's because we're drawing the rectangle, but we're never clearing the canvas. So let me explain the coordinate system. So as like it's different from a graph. See, it's kind of like the opposite of a graph. See, 0, 0 is kind of, think of it like a quadrant 1-ish. Never mind. Right here is 0, 0, right? The farther down, this is the x-axis, y-axis, same axes, right? So the farther along on the x, like this is 0, right? This is like the farther, like let's say I don't know if this is true, but let's say it's like 100 pixels, right? 400, 500, right? So farther away you go from it, this way would be like you'd be in a positive direction, negative direction this way. Same for y, you go up, it can be negative direction. That's the coordinate systems drew in. So let's say we do it here, right? The rectangle starting here. X position is increasing a little bit, y is increasing. There we go, there we go, there we go. 40 times a second. So yeah. What else? Let's say you want to draw like the center of the rectangle at the points you give it. You can say rect mode center. Just a few more things you do with it, and then we'll wrap this up. Ugh. Now it's drawn at the center. Now the rectangle is drawn at the center, right? How about we make the center point like, how about we draw it at like 100 pixels, 100 pixels, 100 pixels. And then what you want to do is, if you don't want the background rectangle to like overlap as it was before, you'd set a background. It's going to be an RGB value. RGB basically means red, green, blue. Pixels are determined by the amount of red, the amount of green, the amount of blue you see. Kind of like primary colors, except real world it's red, yellow, blue. Here it's red, green, blue. So yeah, let's set the background to 50. And it's going to be like a black. Oh, sorry, you have to end off. I didn't end off with a semicolon. I ended off semicolon. Now see, it's kind of like floating along it, right? And it has like a blue, like gray blackish background. This rectangle is like moving along the canvas, right? You can also change the size of it. see, just to show you it's the same thing. Should be happening just on a bigger canvas. Same thing's happening. Want to do that?
And that's how you create Windows screensavers.
Drum roll, please. No. Okay. Whatever. Okay. So that's kind of like an introduction. You can also do quick thing I want to do. Also draw like ellipses or circles. From that, and draw a circle for you. Yeah. There's a lot of other stuff you can get into. Like, there's so much you can. Wait 1 second. There's so much you can get into with documentation. Just go to p5js.org. Search up p5js. Go here. Download it. Download libraries. Go to reference. This is gonna give you like the API. API is like documentation. Documentation is like how to use everything. Let's say you want to go to ellipse mode, for example. It's gonna tell you how to use it. Give you like sample code for it. Put that in P5. It's gonna work beautifully for you. Watch other tutorials online because that's very important. So what do you want to say, Nick?
You want to do matter.js?
Yeah, matter.js. For this, I use P5.js and matter.js because I really like P5 a lot and I use it a lot. So P5 is like something I'm very familiar to and I really like to use. So you can I'd say like using Matter by itself is very good. But if you want to be able to control more stuff with Matter, like then use P5. But it can get very complex if you.
So like, is Matter like a different
type of like
P5, or is it like an actual
Matter
application like P5?
Well, like P5 being like what do you call it? Like what's the word for
like
it?
an IDE.
A framework. IDE, like an IDE or framework, something like that. This is more of just a physics engine. You can like make physics.
So can you integrate this with
into P5?
Can you? Yeah, so you can.
With P5, yeah. So let's say this.
Or can you have it as like a separate application?
You can also, but it's like you create HTML file. I'll open up the files. The HTML file looks similar. Instead of you like take the file, right? You want your libraries folder, paste it here. Instead of being P5 files, it would be like Matter files.
Oh, so then it would just like integrate like the commands that you'll be able to use also with it.
Yes, like just like P5 except for different purposes. So
and now,
that's what it looks like. The only difference is this includes my matter.js, and Matter is included in my libraries folder. Matter's right there. Download it from the internet.
Matter, but what is like the Matter library? What does it contain? Like different shapes that you can use?
It's like P5 has the shapes built in. Matter also has its own like renderer, like with shapes you can also make, but it's mainly a physics engine. So I'll run this right here. This is what I copied like part of the code, then I made it my own. Just like kind of I turned this into my own thing. So what's happening right now is it's gonna spawn like this. This is like the cool stuff you do with code. It spawns like this rectangle from where you drop it. You can be like spamming this. It's gonna like bounce off, right? It's gonna have like physics to it. See, if you do it a lot, it's gonna start to like slow down. I think I just like my computer. Something's happened with my computer now. Yeah, that's not supposed to happen. It's because there's a lot of objects. It was working fine with a lot of objects before, but not too much.
Yeah, and also you have to broadcast.
Broadcasting. That's the thing. There's also like another application. I forgot what it was. See right here, I set the bounds, the edge of this, like the ground right here. Oh, see, you put it right here. It's gonna spawn right there. It's kind of like pushing off each other. It's cool. I set the bounds to be at the end, so like objects kind of like falling off here, right? So basics of Matter. Matter is more complex thing like to get into because it's a lot. These are all custom functions. I created a function box function. A mouse pressed is a P5 thing I used. It's just when the mouse is pressed, it's like when the mouse is pressed, gonna call this function. Draw has the draw thing in there and also have setup in there. So right here, you can look at all these variables. I named this engine, which is Matter is basically Matter is an object, right? An object is like a variable that stores a lot of other like data in it. So it's referencing Matter from that file I got. So it's saying matter.engine, world is matter.world, bodies matter.bodies, and now I'm creating a local engine, which is gonna be an instance of the engine, meaning that it's gonna be like a local version of that engine. Like the engine has a lot of stuff to do, but I'm gonna create my own version of the engine so it can run. Like for example, engine is like, think of the engine as like all the functions that it can carry out, but then like this lowercase engine I created, like you can name whatever you want, but like I said, this is like the convention I follow. Lower, like, this is gonna be like a local engine. You understand, Nick? Can you like explain it in better words?
No, I think that's pretty
It's
good.
good. Okay. So same thing for here. World. It's gonna kind of like it's gonna. So you created this engine, right? It's gonna be an instance of this engine right here, and the world is gonna be in the world of this instance. See right here, the world has matter.world, engine has matter.engine. This is gonna be a world of this instance of engine. This is our game's instance, whereas engine is kind of like the larger engine. Boxes are like boxes right here. You see everything's kind of like boxes. That's how I made my shapes. I keep an array of boxes. An array is like a list of boxes, and this controls the physics for all the boxes. Kind of like draws all the boxes, right? So I created the canvas to be 600 by 600. Vector mode center, which means rectangle can be drawn at the center. This is an object I created. Objects are like variables. So this is a variable, right? I call this bar ground. I made the value here. Brackets are used to signify an object. Objects have like parameters, well, not parameters. They have values within them, kind of like other variables inside of them. You can access. Let's say you want to do ground dot position dot x, which it's gonna access ground, access position, access x. Like it's gonna like go deeper into that. This is an object I created. Position dot x. That's how you'd access that. That's kind of like a variable you can use. You can edit that and you can access that. It's any variable except it's in this object. So then this world. So what it's doing here, it's this ground. It's gonna create the ground that's right here. Like I said, there's a lot to get into, and there's videos. Like I get mainly my stuff for JavaScript off the coding train because he uses a lot of like libraries and such. Search him up on YouTube. He's amazing. Like,
Yeah,
commentary.
he has a again not sponsored, but he has a lot of like good he also uses P5, so if you don't kind of understand what Teal's talking about, you can go over there and he shows you a lot of things with P5 and using JavaScript.
Yeah. And he's a very good commentator too. Charismatic guy, I like him. So yeah. What do you call it? So world right here, what it's doing, it makes this ground, like I said here, it's this ground right here. That's like it's not affected by gravity, so it's a static object, meaning it's not affected by physics forces. Okay, right. Yeah, as you can see right there, it's not going down like all these other objects due to gravity. So that's the variable we created here, ground. It's gonna add to this world this object we created right here. So it's gonna create a new box. Box is the local function I created with these parameters. The x value is gonna be like the width of the screen is 600 pixels, right? It's gonna go to half of that. So 600 over 2, is 300. So it's gonna go to half of that, and it's gonna be drawn at like, let's see. So width over 2, like width is this, right? Let's say width over 2 be like right here, and then the height it will be the end of the screen, right? And then that's x and y, and takes another width value. The width value is gonna be how wide it is. I want to take up the whole width of the canvas. The height is 100 pixels. Here, visible is only 50 pixels because it's drawing at the center. So if this canvas was like kind of like extended this way, it would be like you would see 100 pixels. And then I have multiple other values here. Friction, friction of the value, friction of the object. Restitution means like how restless, how bouncy or restless it will be until it rests. Restitution value from 0 to 1. Same with friction. Is static is like the ground right here is static. This is all a function I created. It's going to take a red, green, blue value and alpha value. Red, green, blue, we talked about the primary colors. Alpha is the transparency. RGBA values are valued between 0 and 255, which means there are 256 values for each option that you can get for a color. Yeah, so then what I did here was I set a lot of these options, like the options that the box is gonna follow when it's dropped. So like this has a bunch of options it's gonna follow. As you can see here, you drop it closer, it's not gonna bounce it. It's not gonna bounce so much. You drop it up here, it's gonna. I think it's like if it's skinnier, it's gonna like bounce more. That's like a square. Yeah, I could toy around with this as much as I want, because it actually is really fun doing that. But Yeah, it's a demonstration of this. Um, and now I'm gonna set basically what's happening here. Box is basically it's like its own variable, right? When you call box, you're creating a new box, and this what's happening with this is referencing this specific box. So you can create many boxes, right? For example, whenever you create a box, it's gonna call that box function, create a new box for you. So it's and taking in these parameters. So it doesn't want to like set like vox is not a variable. Like it's like a variable. I'll put a semicolon here to end that off. My bad thing. Like sometimes it's okay if you don't leave it if you don't put a semicolon, but better off if you do. Like I was saying before, what you can do is you can set up the values for any, like when you create a new instance or a new box. Instance means like a new type of that. You should do box. You don't want all the boxes value to change. You only want this box's value to change. Change this dot body is gonna create a bodies we reference here. Matter dot bodies is a object that they have there. Create a new rectangle. This is itself is the physics, right? And then here is this itself is the physics. I use this to keep track of like where it actually is, so I can draw it later. Right here, I drew a rectangle where it actually was. So you can also use the built-in renderer. I'm pretty sure it's like I don't know exactly what it looks like. Let me look right here. There's documentation for it. Let's see. Source code, right? Wiki. You can just go into like the pages, look at everything they have. Right here, they have something. They have the renderer, right? Renderer is equals matter.renderer. The way they did it here instead of semicolons is what we have. So renderer, what does that sound?
Alright, so that sound, as you know, people who have followed us, means that we are running out of time. So gotta hurry up, man.
Okay, I got you. Like I said, it's my first time here. Drag on my conversation line.
Yeah, I
Okay,
know. It's all new.
yeah. When you create a new renderer, it's gonna renders, actually render the objects on screen, right? So render equals render dot create is gonna create a new renderer, and you can use this to draw everything. But like I said, I like using P5 for my stuff. That's why I'm making more complicated for myself, so I can do more stuff with it down the line for me. So just you look at the documentation, as I said before, on the Matter.js website, and you can just like read all the documentation. And I recommend using a local renderer because it's easier to do more, and it's like you can do more with that, which looks pretty cool here. Let's see. Explain a lot of this. This is all like a local stuff. It's telling us what to do. It rotates. For example, I'll look through this. I'll go through this. Translate is what push. This follows the instance thing. You're creating multiple boxes. Push is basically gonna save all the contents, like all the preferences. Like for example, rect mode center, the rectangle mode, the rect mode that it's called. It's a preference, right? It saves that preference and it's gonna create its own preferences. So translate is gonna basically means it's gonna move the canvas to that position, right? It's gonna like kind of like shift the canvas to right here, the origin point to this, right? It's gonna we created these variables, so I was going to shift that to this box position. It's going to rotate the whole canvas, to the box's angle. You really need Rep Center again. I don't know why that was in there. So quick. What do you call it? Let me see this. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so this, what this is doing, it's kind of like, when you drop something, like you drop a lot of rectangles. See, it's kind of like it has its own rotation for a bit, right? It's rotating the rectangle based on that, and it's gonna pop, meaning it's gonna take all these values, and take the value like the preferences here. It's gonna put them back on. So it's kind of like saves it, creates its own preferences, and like pops it, kind of like puts it back into use, and like forgets all the preferences you put here, and
All
then add one more thing, and then
right.
for the draw loop, every frame that it's called, it's going to it's gonna call engine.update engine. It's gonna update the engine, right? Yeah, with that. And then it's gonna go through every box that we created, all the boxes, right? It's gonna draw the boxes, and then finally it's gonna draw the ground at the end. So that
All
creates a
right.
finished product that is this. Okay,
All
I think
right.
that's
So
all.
you can stop sharing. You can stop sharing your screen now. I think this might be one of the longest podcasts we've ever done. That's like It's been like 50 minutes long, very long one. So yeah,
Oh
so
yeah.
that's basically, yeah. So that's
Hi,
basically
my
all the
substitute. Okay.
basics.
Who?
Yeah,
Hi.
that's basically all the basics of JavaScript and everything you need to know. So what's gonna happen is, again, as I said, we'll be doing a lot of more of these coding adventures with Sahil, and then when Dominic's available, we'll be doing our regular podcast. So I think that's it, right, Sahil? Anything you have to say? Camera's on you.
Yeah, like I said, go check out P5JS, Matter.js, learn a lot about JavaScript. Big recommendation, go search up The Coding Train is his name on YouTube. Really, really good guy. Look through all his playlists, his videos, really smart guy. Very good at explaining stuff. That's really all I have to say.
All right, so that is it, right, Sahil?
Yep.
Did good today. All right, thank you for watching,
How
and
long
we'll
has this
see you
podcast been?
soon. I think it's hold on. I gotta wait for this. It's been like I think it was like 50 minutes, 55. So yeah,
Oh,
we've
cool.
been on here for a while. It's like 10 o'clock now. So yep.
Well, I hope you guys
All right.
enjoy that.
Yeah. All right. If you have any questions, you leave them in the comments. We'll always answer them back. You can follow us on Twitter at ndtech225, and we'll always answer you back, especially on Twitter. And yeah, that's everything. All right. See you later. Say bye, Sahil.
Bye. I'll see you next time.